Welcome to the Displaced Diehards podcast, recorded live at 2420 Studios in Owensboro, Kentucky. Check us out, as always, at www.displaceddiehards.com. Download the podcast also on iTunes, and check us out on Twitter at Diehards Podcast. Yippee-ki-yay.
Displaced Diehards.
Displaced Diehards.
I am a Displaced Diehard.
I'm a Displaced Diehard.
We are Displaced Diehards.
Welcome to episode number 10 of the Displaced Diehards NFL podcast. I am your beaten down, embarrassed, flat out defeated host, Stephen A. Turner. Alongside my tag team partner, Mr. Brandon Ward.
I've got one win, so I'm still kind of hanging in there by a string.
Before I actually just throw it to you all together, because I don't feel like doing a monologue today, I'm going to give special thanks to the captain behind the big board, Mr. Ill Bill Hardesty, and our TV editor, Mr. Roger Turner, for putting in all the time on the show. Right now, I'm just going to go ahead and throw it to you. I'm pretty much disgruntled at this point.
Yeah, we'd like to start off usually with talk about our teams and everything, but what we're going to start off today with was the top 5 NFL teams, and neither of our teams are anywhere near that. So
let's go bottom 5.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to hear about our two loser teams right now. So we'll go starting at number 5, the top NFL teams in the league. I got the New England Patriots.
I have a surprise number 5. I've got the Miami Dolphins at number 5. How about that?
It's probably the two teams that's going to battle for that division there in the AFC East.
Right.
So I mean, it's pretty much a toss-up at this point from what you've seen. I was thinking Dolphins, Bengals, or Patriots here, and I went with Patriots just because they're 3-0 without Gronkowski, so they're supposed to get him back shortly, so I went with them at 5.
I took them at 4, so that's where they're at on my list as number 4.
Well, I know you're going to appreciate my number 4. Your New Orleans Saints check in at number 4.
That's right, the Hurricane Katrinas. I've got them at 3, so I'm one step ahead of you at this point.
One step ahead of the game right here.
That's right.
All right,
one step ahead.
Moving on up to number 3 of mine, I've got the Indianapolis Colts, led by Andrew Luck, looking impressive against the 49ers last week, of course.
Yeah, well, I have to eat crow about that. It's an every week thing at this point, but I don't have the Colts in my top 5. I would put them in about the top 6, 7 teams after that impressive win on the 49ers.
Going on to number 2 now, I got 1 and 2 are pretty much. I think everybody's going to have these two at 1 and 2. It's just how you got them, and I've got Denver at number 2. I've
got Seattle at 2 and Broncos at 1. So we got those flip flopped. But yeah, pretty much the consensus. Our top 5 is pretty close to being the same there.
Yeah, I went with Seattle number 1 just because of the home field advantage. I mean, that place is ridiculous. It's worth 14 points. It really is. I mean, I was almost satirical about it the first time I said it, but it really is worth about 14-point home field advantage there.
Yeah, the good news for the Broncos is if they do meet them in the Super Bowl, they will not have to play them in Seattle. They will get to play them in New York, which may not be much better. Peyton Manning in the dead of winter.
Yeah, the bad news, if you're a Broncos fan, is that game will be played in the playoffs, and Manning's usually half the quarterback that he is right now. So
that's true. He looks fantastic right now, though.
We'll see how those two even out throughout the season, I guess.
Flat out dealing right now.
Yeah, Peyton Manning is ridiculous. He's playing with defense. The defensive rules, the defensive players have no shot with him anymore. I mean, now that he's hurrying up offense and they can't hit anybody, and if you dare to bring a blitzer against him, he sees it immediately and just audibles out of it and goes 40 yards downfield.
Well, he's got so many weapons. I mean, he could throw it to anybody on the field is a weapon for him at this point. I mean, he's
like a walking quarterback Terminator. He's got that like Arnold Schwarzenegger eye when he looks at things. It's just computer graphics come out. Yeah, I've never seen anything like it. It's impressive to watch. It's fun to watch, but he's almost like how we say the Falcons need to win in the playoffs. And until I see Peyton Manning win again in the playoffs, I mean, the one year he did win the Super Bowl. You know what great quarterback he beat in that Super Bowl? Rex Grossman.
That's right, Rex Grossman.
So that showed you how great the league was that year. And it was a horrible Super Bowl. And, I mean, the league was down that year, in my opinion, anytime that Rex Grossman is your opposing starting quarterback in the Super Bowl. But, I mean, that was a long time ago, and he's had a lot of playoff failure since then. And until I see him get it done in the playoffs again, I'm just gonna chalk this up. I
would dare to say that he's got more talent around him right now than he's ever had in his entire career. So
yeah,
he's gonna have a little bit more help than he had then as well. I mean, not that he didn't have help in Indy; he had a lot of talent there as well, but the Broncos right now, I mean, they're loaded, and they don't even have Von Miller and Champ Bailey in there. So
that's what I was going to say. All this that he's done so far, and then his defense is missing the 2 top weapons. So once they get those back, that'll be nasty. But he just looks like a different guy once the weather gets below 30 degrees. We'll have to see how that turns out.
Speaking of nasty, I know somebody that's having a party right now at my expense. We'll go ahead and bring him in right now. It's going to be Drunk Bernie.
He's been drinking.
This is Bernie Kosar for the Displaced Diehards NFL podcast. And how about them brownies? This calls for a celebratory drink. Another one. I'll have you know, Bostwick and Sergio, this is not Goldschlager. It happens to be a single malt 12-year-old scotch on the rocks. A drink for the more refined palate and heartily endowed wallet. Plus, it's got about 20% more alcohol by volume than that schnapps, so... How about some Brian Hoyer, huh? Getting it done, just like I said he would. Could have done without the INTs, but hey, debuts are nerve-wracking, and apparently aim-rattling as well. And Josh Gordon, how about that fella? You got him on your fantasy squad? You should. Even with no touchdowns. How about 24 points in PPR? I'll have it, thank you kindly. Jordan Cameron. Jesus. Jordan Cameron is an absolute monster. He's pulling down anything that even looks like a football in the end zone. Hey, Goodyear, careful where you fly that blimp. Cameron might spike you into the crowd and we'll have a modern-day Hindenburg catastrophe on our hands. All the humanity. I don't really know what to say about the Vikings. They don't get slaughtered. They stay in the game, but they peter out at the end. Or should I say Peterson out at the end. You gotta find a way to get it done. There's gonna be a long season for old Sebastian and Randy's team there. And this week, we play the Bengals. A home stage showdown at our home field. The Bengals stole one from the Packers last week, so, good for them. Now they're coming into our house, and we're going to beat the stripes off your pansy little helmets. The Browns are taking this one 20-17. Back to you, Bronson and Samwise. This is Bernie Kosar for the Displaced Diehards, and I've been drinking.
Thank you, Bernie Kosar, for your drunken thoughts on the Vikings-Cleveland game and your personal shot taken at Steve Turner, even though he didn't get your name right that whole segment.
Yeah.
I believe that was directed at you.
I'm sure it probably was. I'm used to it at this point. Just go ahead and direct your shots at me.
It's like water off a duck's back at this point.
It sure is. I mean, I've been ridiculed and laughed at forever. I wear my Vikings hat, or people see my license plate, and they're like, oh, yeah, Vikings, why are you a Vikings fan? And it's just like, I don't know. I don't know why I do it to myself. But, go ahead. And, Jets fans are laughing at me, and that's cool. They've won 2 games. Titans, I was kind of down on them. We haven't won a
Chargers.
game. We haven't won a game. Yeah, Chargers. I mean, I was just crapping on these teams.
Yeah, I was guilty of that.
You know what? I'm not going to apologize to the
fans.
Too. I'm not going to apologize because at the end of the day, we're just going to have a higher draft pick than those teams because they're not going to win the Super Bowl either. So,
and the Teddy Bridgewater Bowl
already. It is what it is, Jets
3.
fans. So go ahead and enjoy your mediocre Geno Sanchez. Exactly.
Oh God,
that's exactly right. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Did they take Bernie Kosar's advice and strap 2 half-ass quarterbacks together in New York and make one?
Yeah, just keep loving him. That's all I can say. Whatever. But at this point, I'm just bitter. I mean, yes, we lost to a backup third-string quarterback that I warned you about last week.
Well,
by the way,
if you listen to last week's episode, you can tell that he's not that shocked about it because he told everybody watching exactly how this game was going to happen.
That's right.
I mean, they come back every week and get him into the game, and then they find out a way to lose it in the fourth quarter. They find out a way to F them, just like he said.
Yeah, the best part about this week's game was that I told you what was going to happen midway through the third quarter. I pretty much wrote you a timeline of events of how the game was going to transpire, and it pretty much transpired to the T of how I said it was going to go.
Looked like you had a game plan sheet.
It was really a hell of a theory on my part that as a Vikings fan, you've got to kind of prepare yourself for that, and if it doesn't happen, it's like a double bonus at that point. You're like, we didn't blow the game, we won, so it's a double bonus.
At least you can take solace in that. Maybe you warned some Vikings fans that are newer to the fleet and didn't know how they like to rip your heart out every game. Maybe if they watched last week, they weren't so crushed by losing to a team that was trying to lose.
I can be like a medication to you. I can tell you exactly how to.
He feels your pain.
How to cope with the Vikings play, but. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say. I mean, at this point,
Cleveland's trying to lose.
They're unprepared.
They weren't successful.
Yeah, I mean, they did everything they could to lose this game. And then Brian Hoyer came in and looked like the second coming of Joe Montana, like I said he would.
It was a close game at halftime, and they decided to pull their field goal kicker and say he was injured.
Yeah,
they were like, "Oh, that'll get us the loss. We gotta get this loss."
They were fumbling the ball like when they shouldn't have. There was a point in the game where they were up 10 with the ball and trying to run a 2-minute drill with Hoyer, and they had the ball like on their own 10-yard line, and I was like, the Browns are trying to lose this game, and then he throws a pick, and I'm like, yeah, they are definitely not trying to win. And there was a point for the first 2.5 quarters, I was just mad that the game was close because when we came out, we went like 80 yards in like 8 plays. We looked fantastic, and I was like, I told Raj, I said that's exactly what you need to do to a team that's down. You need to come out and you need to punch them right in the mouth,
stomp them in the throat,
and they'll give up. And I was like, and then the Browns went 3 and out, and Hoyer looked terrible, and I was like, here we go. I even made the comment. I was like, this is going to be good. It's going to be a good Sunday to sit back and maybe win a game like 31-7 or 31-14, and then the Browns just unleash the fury on us, and for the first 2.5 quarters, I'm just mad that the game's close. I'm just upset. I'm like, I can't.
The realm of possibility hasn't even entered that the Browns are going to win this game. He's just mad that they're close at this point.
I can't believe they're close, and then it starts to seep in, like midway through the third. I'm like, we're gonna lose this game, and then I was like, just find a way to win. All you have to do is just find a way to win. No one's going to remember in Week 15 you beat the Browns by a Blair Walsh 52-yard field goal at the wire. They're just going to see that win in the column. So just find a way to win. And what they do, they pulled it together. The defense played lights out. Ponder starts running for touchdowns. They get the lead, and I was like, all right, they're going to find a way to win. And then Hoyer manages to go on a 55-yard drive that's just lights out.
Ate the entire clock of the fourth quarter.
I mean, the only person on the field that looked like he actually was interested in playing football, Harrison Smith, just got burned by Jordan Cameron.
Jordan Cameron is going to be released because the Browns do not want to win that game, and he keeps catching touchdowns. So look for Jordan Cameron to be the next guy traded out of Cleveland.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, him or Josh Gordon, but whatever. It is what it is. We're ill-prepared. Our teams, I don't know what's going on. Leslie Frazier ran a tight ship last year. They didn't make a lot of mistakes. They were well coached. They did a lot of things correctly. And this year they look lost. They don't look interested. They look poorly coached. Their special teams is absolute garbage. I was calling for our special teams coach Mike Pfeiffer to get a head coaching job somewhere in the NFL. He did just an outstanding job last year, turning our always horrid special teams into something great last year. And then right off the get this year, their special teams is just horrible. Giving up that punt return was one thing, but giving up the field goal with Cameron just standing over there, waving his arms 20 seconds before they even run the play, I'm wide open, and he's wearing a fucking orange helmet, for God's sake.
I mean, why would you think he's
nobody
out there
sees him
for an extra field goal attempt? If you're kicking a field goal, why is your tight end broke out wide to the right?
If you get beat on a punt return and then you get beat later in the game on another punt fake, is what I'm trying to say. If you get beat on a punt fake or any kind of fake during the game and you get beat on it again at some point in the game, your special teams coach is just flat out not paying attention. And that's just, you got to pull your guys in and be like, every time, watch the fake. Watch the fake. Every time it's got to be something you say before you break the huddle. And, this guy's just standing out there 20 yards away from anybody. And, it's just embarrassing. It's flat out embarrassing.
You were calling it all day saying they were playing a team that had nothing to lose. So, you
they
gotta
were.
watch for anything.
They're dangerous. No doubt. It was a dangerous thing. But you're playing at home to a team you're far superior in talent. That's the way I book it anyway. You got to come out of there with a win. It's just, and people come up to me and they're asking me questions about, what's wrong with your Vikings? And, man, I don't play for them. I don't go out. If they had half the heart that I had, they'd be 3-0 right now. That's what it boils down to. They're coming out there lifeless and not caring, earning a paycheck. Guys like Phil Lodeholt, who I went to bat for, Vikings fans just crushed this guy. They're like, we can't pay this guy, top 10 tackle money in the NFL, and I'm going to bat for him, and we give him a fat paycheck, and the guy just writes it home. I mean, he's not even showing up for games. The guy they call the best center in the league, John Sullivan. I mean, I put him on the side of a milk carton somewhere because I haven't seen that guy all season. I mean,
the whole offensive line for the Vikings
garbage.
Has regressed.
I mean, the only player out there that looks halfway decent is Khalil. He's shored up his game on the outside. They're not getting much pressure on his side, but they're getting pressure up the middle. Lodeholt looks terrible. Our guards always were shaky, but I mean, I could go on and on for days. Back to the matter, we'll sum it up with embarrassment is what it is. It's an absolute. It makes it hard to do the podcast. It really does, because it's just like somebody just kicks you right in the balls, and on a Sunday at 12 o'clock, and you watch the game, and you have all these other games you want to analyze for the podcast, and when that happens, you don't want to watch anything. I mean, you just want to go home and go to bed. And it's like it's just hard. It's ridiculous.
Well, from one embarrassment, let's go to another. In RG 0-3 down there in Washington, is they took on the Detroit Lions and once again lost. I loved it personally.
While we're on the topic, I mean, the games. There's a lot of bad football. I mean, just looking at the games that I saw. I mean, people want Detroit's 2-1. They didn't look good either, and they haven't looked good all season. They're 2-1. I mean, I take that. Don't get me wrong, but Washington, the Giants. I mean, all these teams just.
I think there's a big disparity between the top of the league, the top 5 teams in the league, and then like in between 5, you got about 7-8 teams that I say are legit, really good football teams, and then it falls way off after that.
I don't even know if I'd go that far. I might even say there might be 2 really good teams. Then there's like 4 good teams, and then there's just crap after that. I mean, it's just muddle through it if you can. I mean, it's hard to watch, to be honest with you. I mean, the Redskins look terrible. I think, I'm down on my team. I can't imagine how Redskins fans feel.
I know Pierre Garçon is down on RG3. He won't shut up about how he's not the same quarterback anymore, which I love. Just keep bringing on the hatred to RG3 and watching crack. Last year he was everybody's media darling, and now they're starting to question him, and I hope it just affects them all season.
Yeah, Fred Smoot. I mean, if that's a guy you can really go on for character, Fred Smoot,
party boat,
master of the party boat, called RG3 a brat. Yeah, and what do you call Shanahan the red lobster?
Yeah, he said there's dissension in the locker room already.
That makes sense. I mean, it shows in those comments. I mean,
do you think RG3 holds Shanahan accountable for his blown out ACL? You think he feels like he pressured him to play?
I think that there could be a possibility. Obviously, like we highlighted in the preseason, that if they're not winning, that gap between Shanahan and RG3 is just gonna be magnified, and it's coming to light now, and just you can blame RG3 all you want, but their defense is just garbage. I mean, yeah, RG3's not getting it done. Don't get me wrong, but he hasn't even had a chance. I mean, by the time he even looks up at the scoreboard, they're down 14-0, and
I mean, he did have a chance to put them back in the game,
at
even
the end
with
of the
lax
game,
of the defense.
and then he fumbled the ball. That's correct.
Yep,
absolutely.
He dove head first instead of making the slide and fumbled, and I was loving
Christian
it.
Ponder head first
Loving
slide, but and Washington fans got to be just as embarrassed and upset as I am, so I can relate.
All right, moving on to a team that you love to watch lose. So this might brighten your day a little bit.
It would have, but I don't even care.
Green Bay versus Cincinnati. The Bengals get the win here.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers actually looked human in this game. He threw a couple picks. And
like you said, if you can get pressure on him, he turns into a different quarterback, and the Bengals are built for that. They got a quick defense.
Yeah, what happened when they put the ball in his hands and they were behind in the fourth quarter?
He started yelling at people is what happened.
They lost.
Did you see him and his coach over there arguing on the sideline? You had to love that.
Yeah, well, I can't imagine. I mean, you would never know because no one's ever going to talk about it. Had that been anybody else in the league, barring a few people, few people get hall passes like Brady can yell at his whole team, and Rodgers can demean his coach, but certain players can get away with it and certain players can't, and he's one of them that's going to be able to get away with it.
I think the much maligned Andy Dalton that we've always said this whole podcast has to step up and show that
he still didn't step up, even in the win.
But he still got the win against a playoff caliber team.
Yeah, he hung him in there. The defense is what won the game in the end.
That's the question going with Andy Dalton is if he can win against good teams. He gets them to the playoffs, but then he can't get over the hump when he gets to the playoffs. And I mean, getting a win against Green Bay, it's a big win. That's a step in the positive direction for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're gonna have to win some games like this if they're gonna be at the echelon that people have expected them to be at in the preseason. AJ Green still shows. I mean, he's one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in all of football.
Moving on to another big time receiver, Brandon Marshall's Bears 3-0. We've been down on them as they took on Pittsburgh, of course, 0-3 Pittsburgh. Now
I haven't really been too down on them. I mean, I tried to say that if their offense can come together.
We've been down on them. We've made fun of their CFL coach and everything all preseason.
I mean, I've highlighted the fact they were 10-6 last year and that they were a tiebreaker away from making the playoffs. I thought that if their offensive line could perform, which it somewhat is, and Cutler's doing enough.
That's always the big if, the offensive line, and if Cutler doesn't throw interceptions. If that's not happening, I mean, the Bears defense gets the craziest amount of turnovers. Balls just falls into their hand. It's ridiculous.
It never fails. I mean, that's been their MO for years. Is the ball just rolls right to them on defense.
I mean, is that something they do on defense? And if
they practice it,
if so, why does every team not practice that?
Charles Tillman said they practice it.
Why does every team not practice that? Then?
You can't practice that. Come on.
I would love for the Eagles to have a fifth the amount of turnovers that the Bears get every year. It seems like just anytime the ball is near a Bears defensive player, ends up in their hands and going 70 yards the other way.
Yeah.
I do love the way whenever the defense does make a turnover, their defensive players immediately turn into offensive player pass blocking.
Oh yeah, the Bears, what they've done successfully so far is they have kept the same formula on defense without Lovey there. And they have added an element that lacked last year in the offense. I mean, Cutler's not so zoned in on Marshall. He's spreading it around. He's getting Bennett involved, Alshon Jeffrey and Earl Bennett. Those guys are getting involved, and that's a postage stamp of their head coach.
Using Forte a lot more. I think Lovey kind of went away from him almost Andy Reid style, where he didn't want to run the ball, and it seems like Forte is a lot more involved in the game plan. He's a playmaker, and I mean. You put the ball in the running back's hand that can make plays. That's less opportunities for Jay Cutler to make mistakes.
Yeah, Trestman is obviously having a positive effect through 3 games. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm sold on the Bears. I'm not going to sit here and say that I know that they're going to be a playoff team. But I know I've said it a million times. I highlighted the NFC North that I thought Green Bay was right there for the taking, and obviously the Vikings aren't going to be at 0-3 at this point, and the Lions, I'm not sold on them at all. So if there's going to be a team, the Bears are that team.
Yeah, it looks like Chicago's the team in the Central to challenge Green Bay if there is going to be one. Green Bay, the North.
No, the North, yeah, not the North. I wasn't correcting you. I was just
Green Bay has held a stranglehold, and like we said, they had to start signing players in the offseason, give them big contracts, and then it ends up your team devalues a little bit. So I think Green Bay's right for the taking. If Chicago keeps playing turnover-free football, that's their ticket to victory.
Yeah, Green Bay's defense is very suspect, and that's a huge liability if you ask me.
Speaking about liabilities, we'll go ahead and kick it to Todd Haley, the Pittsburgh offensive coordinator. Since he's got there, Pittsburgh has went to hell in a handbasket. Why does this guy still have a job?
Don't worry, we'll keep him on the payroll for one more week. He's got the Vikings in London this week, so he gets a reprieve for 1 week.
Yeah, Roethlisberger will put up 70 points this week since they're playing Minnesota.
Roethlisberger, he threw for like 500 yards in this game, so I mean, I don't know what it is in Pittsburgh. It's just kind of a mess right now. The transition is not going smooth. No, their identity's always been run the football, and play good D. And
their running game's just suspect. I mean, when you're relying on Felix Jones, you've got a huge problem.
Yeah, it's not working in Pittsburgh, and we'll see what happens this week. They're in a mess too. They're not fun to watch. I watched a little bit of the game, and it's just ugly.
Well, Chicago started off 3-0. We had a chance to send our correspondent, Kenny the Snake
Newest
Stabler.
Correspondent, that's right.
Yeah, he stole the show last week. Kenny the Snake caught up with Bears quarterback Jay Cutler.
This is Kenny the Snake Stabler here, reporting for the Displaced Diehards NFL podcast. They decided to bring me back last week after I stole the show, interviewing my hero, Mr. Al Davis. He might be a zombie now, but he's still a father figure to me. This week I got Bears quarterback Jay Cutler here with me. Jay, how you doing?
Son of a bitch.
Now, Jay, I got to ask you, what is the secret to the Bears' success?
Because of Jay Cutler. Got me? I said, do you got me? Shake your head like you got me. Okay.
Wow. So it's all you, huh? Just like it was when the Snake played back for the Raiders. About your defense. The defense creates a lot of turnovers. I mean, how critical is that to the Bears' success?
My offensive linemen give up a sack, I put my foot up their ass. They don't give up a sack anymore.
Wow, that's hard-hitting stuff, Jay. Jay Cutler, ladies and gentlemen. Jay Cutler just taking full credit for the Bears' success. It's unbelievable. Nothing to do with Mark Trestman. I mean, it's all Jay. I mean, at this point.
I gotta go win with Caleb Haney, you son of a bitch. It's not happening. We're 3-0 because of Jay Cutler.
This is Kenny the Snake Stabler here, reporting for the Displaced Diehards, and you can bet your ass I'm here to kick ass and do interviews, and I'll be back for week number 3, so look for the Snake, baby. Woo!
Well, thank you, Kenny the Snake, for your awesome interview skills with Jaded Jay Cutler there.
We just keep adding great correspondence. Bernie, Kenny the Snake. I mean, we keep this up. I mean, look out. Sky's the limit.
We also got a new correspondent coming up, Kermit the Frog, Jets #1 fan coming up. So if you're a Jets fan or if you just want to hear somebody talk about the Jets, if you don't hear enough of that on ESPN, keep tuned and Kermit will talk about them.
That's right. We just running right down Sesame Street. We're going to get them all.
Moving on now to the Niners versus the Colts. This is one of the marquee matchups of the week. Of course, Trent Richardson, as Drunk Bernie broke the news on the podcast last week, was traded to the Colts from the Browns.
Yeah, we hit the nail right on the head unintentionally, talking about how the Colts needed to trade for a running back. I was hoping to be Toby Gerhart. It ended up being Trent Richardson, who on the very next segment we highlighted that was a complete wasted pick for the Browns.
Yeah, he didn't fit the Browns scheme, and he was a bust for the Browns. And we had said the Vic Ballard injury was huge for the Colts and was going to take them out of contention. And they went and got shit handled. They went out and got him a stud running back, Trent Richardson. At least they think he's a stud running back. He's got a 3.5 yard per carry average so far. But I mean, what he looked like in college. But Alabama running backs are usually running behind great lines. And
he's definitely in a little bit better system there in Indy, but. It's a good trade for both teams, I guess, so to speak, for right now. We'll have to see how it plays out for the Colts. The first-round pick, we talk about how draft picks are kind of meaningless, and I agree to that to a certain extent. Like, you start getting in the 5th and 6th rounds, and like you said, Bolden for a 6th is absurd.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But yeah, first-round pick, now that's the kind of picks you bring in to kind of, turn your franchise around. So
the person that liked this trade the least is Brendan Whedon because it pretty much guaranteed that the Browns are looking for another quarterback. They picked up that other pick, so if necessary, they can use it to trade up and get a quarterback. I wish they had did that a couple years ago and got RG3 the hell out of my division and picked him instead, but they waited on that. Now that looks like they're probably going to go for Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, the Browns used the Wizinator, so to speak, on the Whedon. They're done with it.
At least Teddy Bridgewater won't be 73 when they draft him.
That's true. I mean, the good thing for Whedon, though, is he can already pretty much draw a retirement Social Security.
He's going to kick right in as soon as he gets cut.
Now that he's not going to be playing football. But to get to the game, it's a shocker. I actually thought the Niners would roll over the Colts. I thought the Colts were, overachieving last year, and the Niners came out, and I thought they would be angry, upset, and instead they started turning on each other, and the Colts just piled on. And
I think this is the first game with the Niners this year that you've seen that Colin Kaepernick is missing Michael Crabtree, and he didn't have Vernon Davis this game either. So I mean, his lack of receivers on his offensive side of the ball is starting to decline a lot. I mean, he can't count on Bolden all game because as good as he is at catching the ball and making catches in traffic, he's not a speed guy that's going to open up the field. And for some reason, Kaepernick hasn't been running the pistol option at all this year. If they're going to get the Niners offense looking anything like they did after they went from Alex Smith to Kaepernick last year, they've got to start using Kaepernick running.
Yeah, Kaepernick looks like a different QB.
He looks scared.
He's definitely, I don't know, he's tentative. Like I said, you're pointing this guy, one of the elite quarterbacks of the league after 8 games. And, yes, he led his team to the Super Bowl, and he was on a very hot streak. But you have to kind of temper that back a little bit and let the guy have a little bit of a body of work. And at this point, he's still a young quarterback. People are acting like this guy's like a 10-year vet or something. I mean, Kaepernick's going to take his lumps.
Was his 11th start?
Yeah, right. That's right. And like you said, he's missing weapons. You lose a guy like Crabtree who he pretty much made into an elite wide receiver last year. He wasn't having the success with Alex Smith, and then Kaepernick comes in, and Crabtree
looked like he was supposed to when they drafted him that high.
Shows out, and then he gets hurt, and then Vernon Davis, who's always been kind of in and out there, and San Fran's hurt, and So, I mean, you're looking at Patton and guys like that, trying Bolden, trying to fill the shoes. And
you would think missing all those receivers, they would patent that running game that's been so good for them previously.
I'm assuming that's what Frank Gore was yelling at Harbaugh about.
Yeah, Frank Gore's pissed that he only got 12 carries. And, I mean, if I was Frank Gore, I'd be pissed that I only got 12 carries.
He only touched the ball like 4 times, I think, in the last, quarter and a half of the game. So, who's to say? When you're losing, everything gets magnified. So, the Niners are going to need to turn around quick, or it's going to snowball.
It didn't get any better for the Niners either because they lost Patrick Willis out to injury. Their defensive leader out there, probably the best linebacker in the league, in my opinion.
And Alden Smith's drunk somewhere.
Yeah, and he's
with Bernie hanging out, driving cars. Do you think he's driving Bernie around?
Alden Smith checked into the same rehab as Bernie checked out of whenever we signed him to Displaced Diehards. If he doesn't get it together, we'll have Alden Smith checking in here shortly.
Yeah, that's. I mean, the Niners defense it's starting to get a little bit depleted at this point. So there's definitely some questions there.
It looked depleted for sure in that game. I mean, the Colts were carving them up at will.
We're only 3 weeks into the season, so. I'm not going to jump the gun too much on writing off the Niners. I think they're a good enough team, talented team, and the coach is good enough to right the ship there.
Speaking of teams we had written off, the Saints, we thought that defense from last year that gave up 7,000 yards was going to be the same defense.
Shocker. But I don't know what I'm talking about.
A bunch of the Saints' defensive starters got injured, and the replacements are actually making that defense viable. It might be a little bit.
You hit the nail on the head.
Might be Rob Ryan a little bit.
Yeah, it may be a little Rob Ryan. You got to tip your cap to the guy. I mean, he's much maligned, and I didn't have any faith in him coming in to New Orleans. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that the starters weren't that good to begin with, and then they get hurt, and their backups, the young guys, they're hungry. They get in there, and they can't be any worse than giving up 40 points a game like the Saints defense was used to, and they come in and they righted the ship on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I don't want to hear out Sean Payton being back from his suspension because he's not a defensive guy. They're still doing the same. They had no problem scoring last year. It was the defense that let them down all last year, and the defense now. If the defense can hold people to 21 points, the Saints are going to beat pretty much any team they play. The Saints are going to outscore them.
Yeah, now it's starting to look like the Saints may be elite because their defense. I said all along I didn't think they were elite because I didn't think their defense would hold up. But I mean, they keep holding offenses down. The offenses they're holding down aren't really bad offenses. The Cardinals are okay.
My Cardinals with Carson Palmer didn't look very good.
No.
My boy Honey Badger once again made big plays.
Yep.
Just makes me even more pissed that we don't have them in Green and Philly as I watch our horrid safeties.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, the Saints are 3-0. Their biggest rivals in the division, the Falcons, at 1-2 with a bad loss, which we'll get to. But I mean, they're starting to separate themselves from the pack early on in the season. I mean, it's hard to come back, and they've already got a win over Atlanta. So Atlanta is definitely behind the 8 ball early. They're going to have to do some catching up.
Yeah, and judging by their playoff record, Atlanta doesn't do very great with pressure.
Yeah, and it seems like Atlanta, I don't know, they're an anomaly to me. I just don't understand all the talent in the world, and they're just not getting it done.
Speaking of teams you don't understand, let's move it on to your beloved Jets as they took on the Buffalo Bills, and Geno Smith looking like a legit starting quarterback.
Yeah, well, I touched on this a little bit. The Jets are 2-1. I mean, that's better than 0-3. So what can I say at this point? They're better than I thought they'd be. Geno Smith is definitely somewhat impressive. I mean, he stepped in and he's making plays. I mean, he threw for over 300 yards in this game. The Bills, they're back and forth. I mean, E.J. Manuel, he's still
C.J. Spiller got a little nicked up. They still haven't figured that out. They're still doing the 50-50 backfield
thing. They're just the middle of the road.
To.
They're so back and forth on everything. And I thought Marrone would kind of come in and settle that down a little bit, but. I mean, the Jets, you have to give credit where credit's due here. I mean,
Rex Ryan finally gets some credit instead of all the hatred that he gets everywhere else. You got to give Rex some credit for piecing this team together.
People have asked me, too. They've been like, you're hating on Rex. I'm never hating on Rex. I mean, I was trying to get the heat off of him for playing Sanchez in the fourth quarter, and the media is acting like he's the worst coach in the world because Sanchez is in there and their season is over because Sanchez is out for the season. I mean, that's the best thing that happened to this football team. Geno Smith has breathed fresh air into the offense, and he's using Santonio Holmes as one of his top weapons, and their running game's going. So, I mean, you have to give Rex Ryan a lot of credit, I think, at this point.
Yeah, the Jets want to play small ball and keep the score low. I mean, they're the opposite of the Saints. They want to minimize the mistakes, which is the one thing they got to clean up from this game. 20 penalties in this game.
Yeah,
heard that Rex Ryan's making in practice now. He's making whenever a player commits a mistake, he's making everybody but that player do a bunch of push-ups.
Yeah.
That's like some
high school stuff there. But hey, whatever gets the job done.
Varsity.
Whatever gets the job done. I mean, they're 2-1, and let's be serious. I don't want to get too crazy here, but I mean, they're one game out of the lead. I mean, as long as you can piece together wins, just piece them together as they go. Take it a week at a time. You know, who knows?
Yeah, I'm not buying into them.
No, I'm not buying into them. Don't Jets fans. I mean, I'm trying to give you a little bit of love here.
But Jets fans, we do have somebody that is buying into them. The number one fan, the green guy himself, Kermit the Frog.
It's not that easy being green, having to spend each day the color of the leaves.
Hello, folks. Kermit the Frog here. Now, you may not know that I am a Jets fan because they are green, and I am green. You know who else is a Jets fan? Mike Greenberg from Mike and Mike in the Morning. His last name is Greenberg. You think that's a coincidence? I think not. That being said, my Jets are sitting at 2-1, while Displaced Diehards host and avid Jets hater Stephen A. Turner's Vikings are 0-3. I've always hated purple. And to add to that, Miss Piggy's Hogs and RG 0-3 are winless as well. So 3 weeks into the season, myself, Kermit the Frog, has all of the bragging rights. Go green. We'll see you next week, Displaced Diehards fans. This is Kermit the Frog, signing off.
Thank you, Kermit. Gotta thank Kermit the Frog. First time checking in on the Displaced Diehards podcast.
Taking a shot at me and nothing. Just take a shot at me.
Jumping on that bandwagon there.
Take a shot at me, week. Go ahead, keep them coming.
Well, now it's time to move on to my Philadelphia Eagles versus fat asses Kansas City Chiefs that happened this past Thursday. I'm going to bring in Displaced Diehard correspondent and lifelong Philadelphia Eagles fan, Wes Prater.
Yep, die Eagles die.
It was something like that.
I'm salty. I don't know what to do. I mean, I wasn't having big hopes for the season. I wasn't having playoff aspirations.
That first half, the first week, brought them right up. Though.
But to have Andy Reid walk into Lincoln Financial and get a W, just I only really have the words. I'm pissed off. That's for sure. Pissed off.
I mean, what it showed is that he definitely had not paid enough attention to defense. Our defense is still struggling. Can't stop anybody. Like I said, I'm not surprised by this game. I actually picked Kansas City to win because the only way I think we can beat teams this year is whenever the offenses turn the ball over, and Kansas City just doesn't turn the ball over. Alex Smith won't throw a pass if there's anybody within 3 yards of his wide receiver. Well, it's a boring form of football to watch, but it's not going to work. It's not going to work in the playoffs. It's not going to win you playoff games, but it wins in the regular season.
We actually played better than them. We just turned the ball over 5 times. You're not going to beat anybody. You're not going to beat the Jaguars if you turn it over 5 times.
I mean, coming out of the gate, it looked like the Eagles weren't prepared for that game at all. I mean, whenever you're fumbling kick returns and you're making just mistakes that you've cleaned up all offseason and you just regress to a different team, I'm going to chalk that up to them not being ready and it being a Thursday game. Those Thursday games are always weird. I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses for them because, I mean, Kansas City's playing on Thursday too, but, I mean, Philly just looked not ready to play that game at all.
Well, I mean, it was even harder for Kansas City. They had to travel to Philly, and we were at home last week, and we didn't have to go anywhere. And they had to travel, so, I mean, they should have been more tired than we were.
Our home field advantage is not our home field advantage at all.
We lost 8 straight.
Yeah, by the time we return to Philly again, it'll be a year since we've won in that building. Our team's set up totally opposite as our home field advantage is. We're a team that would benefit being in a dome, and then instead we're outside in the wind and then in the cold once it gets colder.
Seems like the last win we got was at the Vet. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I think the Vet just gave us wins because people were legit scared to come in there and get tackled on that turf. That was a home field advantage.
Get eaten by the rats.
Yeah, or the crazy fans that broke out of the jail cells that we had there.
It was just discouraging because you figure our players were going to be hyped and excited to play against Reed, and they
choked.
They weren't.
They looked
they choked Philly style. I mean, we know how to do that.
They look like last year. They look like Andy Reid's team last year. Just too many stupid turnovers. And the one thing about Andy Reid, I gotta say, he did get a horrible time management
Of course.
Managing the clock horribly in that first quarter and bring back memories to the Philly fans.
Don't forget about his red zone offense, too. That was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, the kicker's always a good pickup whenever it's an Andy Reid offense because the red zone offense always struggles under Andy Reid.
Yeah, short yardage offense was not good as well. Kansas City didn't pick up a couple.
Jamal Charles is
one
thing is going good there. He looked, like I said, I think he's going to be used like Brian Westbrook, and that's how Andy Reid's using him right now.
Yeah,
we played Charles well until the fourth quarter, and we were tired.
Yeah,
and he finally. Showed his skill, showed that why he's one of the top 5 running backs in the game.
Our defense was on the field way too much on that game, and I mean, next week we play Denver, and if Peyton Manning's on the field that much, he'll put up 80.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to this weekend of football.
You can't turn them. You highlighted it several times. You turn the ball over, and it's just a recipe for disaster. I mean, Vic has to hone in the turnovers as well. I mean, not just he didn't. They weren't all on him, but you have to start to hope that he doesn't start turning into Vic from last year and just start throwing interceptions left and right.
The thing that was glaring obvious to me was how much they were missing Jeremy Maclin.
Yeah.
Riley Cooper was wide open a few times and missed catches, and then there was a few times that he was wide open and Vic didn't throw it to him. You got to question if Vic has lost confidence in him and just not going to throw it to him whenever you're dropping passes and batting them up in the air and risking them being turning into turnovers.
Yeah, he can't get open, and when he is.
He doesn't
catch the ball. I mean,
Macklin's a big loss. I mean, that is your number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah,
so
it hurts. Losing Mag, I was hoping that Riley Cooper would step up or Demarius Johnson. I thought, and he fumbled too. So I mean, he's not anybody that's looking dependable for the team. Our playmakers on the team is Deshaun Jackson and LaShawn McCoy, and if you take Jackson out of the game where you shadow him with a safety and a cornerback, it's hard for our offense to open up.
I'm not bad-mouthing Chip just yet, but I do have some questions. Why hasn't James Casey seen more playing time? Why hasn't Demarius Johnson seen more playing time?
I can answer why Casey didn't see more playing time. It's because they stupidly picked tight end Zach Ertz in the second round instead of Honey Badger.
Yeah, well, I mean, still.
When we had 3 quality tight ends on the roster already.
Still, you give James Casey like $6 million guaranteed, like $14 million over 3 years. I mean, he needs to get some PT. I mean,
Vinny Curry is the guy I want to see on the field more for the Eagles. I mean,
that's another question mark there. He only plays 12 snaps and he
has an effect on like eight of the plays.
He made plays,
and that you're still only getting him in 12 snaps a game. I don't understand that.
I mean, the guy was a beast all preseason long, and he's inactive the first 2 games, and then
the
game he does play in the limited time he plays. He makes an impact. I mean, it's not rocket science. I mean, that's my qualm with Chip right now.
When you've got a horrible defensive backfield, the best thing for them is pressure from just bringing your front 3. Since we play 3-4, I mean, if you can get pressure with those front 3, that's great for your defensive backfield. Why would you not have a guy in the game that's getting pressure on the offense?
I mean, at the end of the game, I hate talking about Eagles after they lose. I'm not a fair weather fan. I still love them, and I'm just affected by losses all week long, and I don't want to revisit them. But going back to the game, there at the end, it came down to our defense. We scored. We were down 14. We scored to make it down by 7. We need to get the ball back, and the defense didn't. They let us down again. They let us down again. And it seems like every time we need the defense to get us the ball back, they don't do it. And they haven't done it all year long. The only reason that we won the Redskins game is because we were up so many points by halftime.
Yeah, the defense eventually ended up giving up a shitload of points in the second half to the Redskins. It was just because the Eagles had put on such a barrage in the first half that the Phillies defense was actual. We could
very well be 0-3.
Oh, yeah. If we didn't have that hot start in Washington, Philly and Washington seasons could be totally different right now. It could be all the heat on Chip that is on RG3 for being 0-3.
I hate to be optimistic, but we could be 3-0 as well. I mean,
like we said, if we could have had it stopped by the defense these last 2 games, and we could have put our offense on the field.
Our defense let us down. Yeah. San Diego only. I mean, I wasn't around for the last podcast to talk about the San Diego game, but we only forced them to punt one time.
Yeah,
one time, and Philip Rivers had a career game.
That's been the question all along. It's never easy to transition from a 4-3 to a 3-4 defense either, and when your personnel, like you've highlighted, your personnel was already a question mark. and you're moving to a new defense, that puts another question mark. And it's just going to take a little bit of time. I mean, you got to give Chip just a little bit of time to see, what kind of players he's going to add. Now, like you said, I mean, they're adding Zach Ertz to a team that has plenty of offensive weapons. To me, if I'm a GM, you're going all defense in the draft. You got playmakers out the wazoo.
Especially when you switch your system totally. You want to get you want to get defensive players that know that system.
Right, that's right.
I mean, as a Philly fan, it's hard to be patient because we're so cutthroat. We go for the neck.
It's never easy to be
win
patient
all the time.
You don't ever want to lose.
And with this defense, I knew what to expect going into the season, but it's still like when it happens, it's still.
Oh yeah, it's hard to watch. You still get involved, obviously. Week
Absolutely.
To week. Yeah.
I mean, especially on games when they're winnable.
Oh yeah.
And,
I know all about it.
And that our crutch is the one that lets us down. I mean, they are professionals. They are athletes. Can they not make one stop? One stop?
Tell me about it.
One stop.
Tell me 2 weeks in a row. Tell me about it. Your defense plays lights out an entire half, and then there's a minute left on the clock, and all of a sudden it disappeared. And
it's also great whenever the head coach has been your head coach for 14 years, and that the fans have been bashing and wanting out for 5 years, comes back in and beats your team.
It's a slap in the face. It's an absolute slap in the face. It's really embarrassing right
overall,
now.
They're probably a more talented team overall from front to back. That's not got nothing to do with Reed. He just walked into that situation that was already built there. I mean, I say they're more talented now. Obviously, Philly's got probably the more talented offense, but you can't
Kansas City defense
sleep
is
on
legit.
Kansas City D. The Kansas City D is
number
legit.
3 in the league.
I knew they were good.
Yeah.
I knew they were good and everything, but still, I wanted that win.
That's a home game. You always want to win. You want to win all your home games.
And it was one of those that had a storyline to it. You wanted to see the Philly players come out with fire, and they did.
I really thought they would. That's why I picked them.
They came out disorganized.
Ward just took the words out of my mouth. I was looking for fire out of the locker room from the get. I didn't see it. I mean, maybe a little bit from the defense, but the offense, they didn't show at all. And Vic, especially. Vic didn't show up.
The offensive line was Nolan Boyd in that game.
Lane Johnson really disappointed me. He let up 3 sacks, gave up 3 sacks to this dude named Houston.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a beast. He's a beast. But I mean,
a beast.
One of the Eagles beat writers was saying that he was having Danny Watkins flashback watching that offensive line performance. It was horrible. I mean, you can put it on Vic for some bad decisions. You can put it on the offensive line. The one guy you can't talk negatively about right now is Shady McCoy in Philly. So since we've been down so much on the Eagles, I got to bring it up a little bit. Talk about the leading rusher in the league, leading the league by 98 yards rushing right now.
You had to expect that coming in with Chip Kelly's offense, that he's going to be the focal point. Him and Deshaun both just fit the mold of what you would expect Chip Kelly offense to be. And I mean, as far as talent-wise goes, I mean, Shady McCoy's always been in the top, 2 or 3 running backs in the game.
Now you got a coach that will actually let him run the ball more than 12 times a game.
We got a coach that is implementing Deshaun into the offense again. I mean, he's been – absent the past 2 years. It's like Andy Reid forgot about him and forgot about what a kind of weapon he is, and I just like that Chip Kelly is using our best talented players and putting the spotlight on them.
He definitely exuberates the positive that we got and hides the negatives as well as he can on offense. He uses the guy, and Andy Reid was almost the opposite of that. He'd take guys and try to make them into his guys. Like he'd take Michael Vick and try to make him into a West Coast pocket passer that makes the right decisions when he's not that guy. He never will be.
I mean, the other reason I wanted this win so bad is because I knew we was going to Denver the next week.
Yeah,
I'm pretty much that's
right
an
there.
L right there. That's an L. I don't care. I don't see us winning that game no matter what. It's not.
Denver keeps rolling the way they're rolling. I don't see anybody beating them, and the only team that I see beating Denver is themselves.
And I think we're gonna get embarrassed. I mean, this could be the first 700-yard passing game in the history of the NFL right now.
He might break his record that he set in Week 1.
Yeah, that transitions right into the game that's next on the list, Denver and Oakland. I mean, I watched that game last night, and we already touched on it. I mean, Manning's just a freaking eliminator at this point.
The Terminator of QBs, as I called him.
But, I mean, one thing I want to highlight that's not Denver is Terrell Pryor. I could talk trash about him not being able to throw the ball. And to be honest with you, this is the first time I really sat down and watched him in an NFL game, and he already looks like a better passer in the NFL than he did in college, which is unheard of, really, to be honest.
Yeah, well, they said they totally retaught him how to throw the ball coming out of college. So, I mean, it looks like it paid off for him. I mean,
he was impressive.
Coming out, I thought he was going to be more of a Denard Robinson slash type guy, like turn into a wide receiver, running back, maybe throw when he's running out of the Wildcat type guy. But he looks like the undead Al might be
onto something.
Might be loving it down there in the
And I mean,
afterlife.
The thing about it is they got destroyed in this game. Like they were never even involved in the game. But as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, Raiders fans have to be excited with Pryor. I mean, they're just outmanned in this game. I mean, Denver's got just buttloads of talent. I mean, across the board, they're just a very talented team. But
the weapons on Denver is just ridiculous.
I
mean, it's not even fair to give Peyton Manning those guys. Wes Welker is custom built to play with Peyton Manning. He knows every time. I think he knows what it's like. He has Peyton Manning's the voice in his head, the offensive coordinators in Peyton's head. It's like Welker has Manning's voice in his head. He knows exactly what he's talking about.
Like they've been playing together for years. Yeah,
they've played 3 games together.
Yeah, you got Welker in the slot. You got Decker and Demaryius Thomas on the outsides, and you got
Julius Thomas.
Julius Thomas is just he's an Antonio Gates clone. This guy is like a basketball player type. And when he gets the ball on the outside, he's not like a tight end where he's just slow and methodical, and you hit him and he goes down. This guy, as he moves, he's agile, he's big.
And that's one thing Peyton never really had was that big tight end. He had Dallas Clark, who he made into a Pro Bowl
star.
But he wasn't one of those basketball guys that you just throw the ball up to and he's going to bring it down in the end zone. You've already seen what Julius Thomas can do, and add to Peyton Manning.
What more do you need? I mean, really.
I mean, and as bad as it is for the rest of the league, they've got more coming. They've got guys suspended now that are the best players on their defense.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you're missing a Von Miller, a guy who, I mean, for anybody's money, I don't know what he's on. I mean, for all I know, he could be on every drug in the book and PED, whatever he's trying to hide. He's trying to hide something. But the fact of the matter is, this guy was a freaking monster last year. Probably, besides maybe J.J. Watt, he's probably the best defensive player in all of football. And you're going to be getting this guy back in Week 6. I mean, that's just terrifying.
Not to mention Champ Bailey hasn't even played this year either, and that's your leader on defense.
Yeah, so
everything's looking really good in Denver is basically what we're saying.
It's Week 3, and it's hard to say this team. But, I mean, let's be serious here. As far as talent-wise goes, the Seahawks have a lot of talent too, but for my money, I'm take Peyton Manning, except maybe, like I said, in the Super Bowl where it's going to be in the playoffs too in Denver outside. He's got to answer that. That's the only question you really have. You're already talking like 15, 16 weeks ahead for Denver. That's how good they are.
Manning's now moved into the Miami Heat category where it's all about championships now. Anything else is a failure.
Oh, yeah. If they don't win the Super Bowl, it's all for naught. I mean, who wants to have a season like they had last year? I mean, and lose in the playoffs. I mean, it's all for naught.
Shout out to Wesley Wooyard and Danny Trevathan in the UK, man. Shout out.
And they are solid. Trevathan he's a tackle machine. He was a tackle machine at
UK.
Both
of them are beasts.
He actually, isn't he the one that put the hit on Terrell Pryor?
Yeah.
Put a concussion on him?
Yeah, he is.
Wesley Woodyard.
Brought in lightning on him. Wesley
Woodyard's our boy B-Doc's favorite player, man.
Yeah, they're tough, man. That's a tribute to the UK teams of old when Rich Brooks used to coach and actually recruit players, unlike Joker Phillips.
I never disagree against Weapon X. So if Weapon X likes you,
hey, there's more NFL players coming out of UK soon to be continued there.
That's right. But
Mark Stoops.
We can move on, I guess, to the count. He's not really that depressed. I guess maybe the sunlight was a huge detriment to the Falcons this week as they got beat.
Yeah, it's bright and shiny in South Beach, and Vampires don't like that very well, and we all know the bloodlines between the Count and Mike Smith.
Yeah, I picked the Falcons in this game, and then right before the game started, I was like, I got to change my pick to Miami. I had no idea that Atlanta was I mean, I knew they were banged up, but geez.
You had no idea that they were such vampires that they were going to turn to dust in the Miami sun.
Man, that sun is bright. I cannot see Mike Smith, the coach this whole game. He's bound to evaporate. But you got to give Miami credit. They've gone on the road the first 2 weeks. They've got, you say what you will, and the Cleveland beat the Vikings. So it's anytime you go to Cleveland, it's not an easy win.
No, that defense is legit.
Yeah, and then you go to Indy, who just trounced the Niners, and you go to their home stadium and you beat them. Then you come home and you beat one of the teams that a lot of people have in the Super Bowl in Atlanta. I mean, the Dolphins are doing it big right now.
Yeah, they're shutting up the doubters down there in Miami. I think it's still about the run game. If they can get anybody consistent there, and with Mike Wallace opening up the field, it's begging for a run game.
Yeah, Heartline is excelling.
Poor man's Wes Welker.
Yeah, thanks to Wallace drawing the D, now Heartline's turned into a poor man's Welker. You hit the nail on the head, and then
it's helping out the loss of Dustin Keller for the whole year. I thought whenever
that's a big loss.
If they had him still, that's a totally different offense.
Sure is, yeah. And Lamar Miller has been showing up to be sufficient. After week 1, he kicked it in a little bit, and he's shown that maybe he can be that guy.
Yeah, Dolphins fans have suffered since Dan Marino, so I gotta say I'm happy. I'm happy for him. I am.
I've been waiting for somebody to unseat the Patriots in that division for like 15 years now. So
anybody's going to pull for the underdog when it comes to Miami. So we're all jumping on Miami. Of course, we want to see them beat New England. You got Jason Dill and Carlocks, all the Carlocks. They're my boys.
Yeah.
So, and they're there just like I am. They might win one game, but I'll guarantee he's watching that 1-14 game in week 16, and they're pulling for the Dolphins just the same. So those kind of fans are my kind of fans. So. Go for it, Miami. I mean, I'm all for it.
Speaking of diehard fans like that, we got a fan that almost committed suicide after Atlanta lost their first loss of the season. So let's kick it to the count and see if he's still around.
It's me, the Count. For the Displaced Diehards NFL podcast. Week number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's a tough loss this week down in South Beach for my Falcons. But after speaking to my son, owner of the Atlanta Falcons, Arthur Blank, and my grandson, head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, Mike Smith, they both spoke of how the bright Miami sun affected my team's play. This week, we will return to the coffin known as the Georgia Dome, so expect better results. Last year, we only experienced 1, 2, 3 losses. There is no way we can lose that many games in 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks of play. Look for us to feast on the blood of Tom Brady in week number 4. And pick up our second win of the season. See you next week.
Thank you, Count Von Count, for your not so optimistic sounding Falcons report. He is picking them to win once again. I mean, he has that blood ties to the Falcons. So what could you expect?
He had some pretty inside information there.
You got to take that. You got to take it personal whenever you got bloodlines to the franchise.
You really do, yeah.
Gonna move on now to the predictions part of the show. Last week we didn't fare so well as I went 8-8 in my predictions. Stephen A. Turner goes 6-10 on his predictions.
So just pick the opposite, bet on the opposite team, and you'll be good to go.
Overall in the year, I'm 30-18. Stephen Turner is 25-23, and the casual fan gets off the schneid, gets his first prediction right of the season last week, and the casual fan checks in at 1-2. What we got on slate for week 4?
We'll kick it off down right over in our neighborhood over here, St. Louis. The Rams will host the malign San Francisco 49ers.
Well, I'm going with the 49ers here. Like I said, I'm a Kaepernick guy, and I'm waiting for him to show up and be Kaepernick.
Get ready to put some more gasoline on the fire. Upset special number 1. I'm going Rams over the 49ers, who they've always played well in St. Louis.
Those are your St. Louis Rams.
They're my St. Louis Rams, and let's just hope they don't get down by like 30 points before halftime again this week.
I would love that because I have Legatron as my kicker, and by the second half they weren't even trying field goals, He scored me 1.
That's right. Okay, let's head up to Orchard Park, New York, home of the Buffalo Bills. They'll be playing host to the Baltimore Ravens.
No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Not this week. Their wagons got flat tires. I'm taking Baltimore.
I'm taking Buffalo in an upset special here.
Look out.
I think C.J. Spiller has his first big breakout game of the week.
Oh, God, I hope so. I got him on fantasy teams galore, and he's averaging about 2 points a game, so that'd be fantastic if he could get off the schneid. Let's just go ahead and give the ball to Fred Jackson 25 times if you could.
Yeah, that's a good way to make. I guess whenever he said he was going to whenever he's going to make C.J. Spiller puke he's going to make him puke by being disgusted that he wasn't getting the ball enough.
I think that's more like it. I'm going Baltimore. who knows what you're going to get with Flacco. And until Ray Lewis showed up on the sidelines last week, they looked terrible again. And Ray Lewis shows up on the sidelines to accept his halftime award, and next thing you know, the Ravens roll off like 24 unanswered points.
He must have threatened to murder them if they didn't perform
That's
better.
what we were talking about at work last night. Right? Ray Lewis he's threatening to shank people. That's why they went on this run to the Super Bowl. And then he shows up on the sidelines, and they're like, "Oh, watch out, Ray's here."
He brought his shank again.
Better straighten up.
That shank ain't retired.
Hey, let's go down to Drunk Bernie's home of the Cleveland Browns. They're going to be playing host to the Cincinnati Bengals in an AFC North rivalry game.
I hope Drunk Bernie has a lot of scotch on hand, not to celebrate, but to drown his sorrows in, because I see Cincy winning this game big.
What did Hoyer throw for last week? Like 365? I'll give him 65 this week versus the Bengals defense. We make everybody look like Joe Montana. Hoyer will come crash landing back to earth, and the Browns will be back to trying to trade away their players again. And right back in the Teddy Bridgewater sweepstakes. Go ahead and give me Andy Dalton and the Cincinnati Bengals, but I'm not going to spend any more time on that crap.
Moving on.
Let's go on to the NFC North contest. Head up to Detroit, Ford Field, home of the Detroit Lions, and they're going to be hosting the Chicago Bears.
Displaced diehard correspondent's own Jay Cutler, Chicago Bears.
And, I mean, it's all Jay Cutler. So if Jay Cutler shows up, the Bears are going to win. And, I mean, it's all on him.
Even if the Bears defense creates 4 turnovers and scores all time, it was Jay Cutler.
That's right. Fear of Cutler is why Reggie Bush will fumble and Stafford will throw 3 picks because they're scared of Jay Cutler. I'm taking the Bears in this game, actually, to go 4-0.
I'm taking Detroit. I think I'm still not jumping on that Chicago Bears bandwagon for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not on their bandwagon, but I just look for the Detroit Lions to make enough mistakes and the Bears. That's just what they capitalize on.
I'm so much on the bandwagon I haven't picked them yet.
That's right. That's right. All right, we'll head down to Reliance Stadium where the Houston Texans will host the Seattle Seahawks.
Seattle, I mean, they're clearly the team to beat in the NFC, and I'm not going against them. I'm going Seattle.
Yeah, I'm going Seattle too. Houston very easily could be 0-3. It's hard to wrap your mind around that, but they were beat. Titans had them beat dead to rights. In week 1, and Phillip Rivers doesn't implode in the fourth quarter, you're looking at an 0-3 Houston Texans team. There's just something about this team that I look at, and I don't know. I'm just not impressed by them. I wasn't impressed by them in the offseason. I'm still not.
Arian Foster, as you predicted, hasn't been the same guy yet this season.
Yeah.
Ben Tate is averaging over 3 yards more per carry. I think it's time to start getting him more involved in the offense, and they need to be the ones that are splitting up carries and not Buffalo, in my opinion. I think Buffalo
Certain teams get it right, some get it wrong.
Buffalo has a legit number 1 running back, and I think Houston has 2 legit running backs that need to be on the field.
Tate needs more touches. I have him on a lot of fantasy teams, so that'd be great.
If I don't have him on my fantasy team, if I'm just the Texans fan, I want him to have the ball.
Agree.
He averaged 10 yards a carry in week 2, and then they barely gave him the ball last game. I mean, you got to see what you got there.
Yeah, and on the other side of the ball, I mean, it's going to be tough for anybody for Houston to get any points with the Seattle defense coming to town. They're the best defense in the league. Granted, they're playing away from home, which is a little bit of a step back for them. But
it's a 14-point swing.
It is, but I think they're 14 points, at least 17 points better than the Texans on a normal day. I'm gonna take Seattle and Russell Wilson to roll on. But we'll head down to where probably about as many people will watch this game in their home stadium as there is in the 2420 studios right now. Jacksonville Jaguars will host the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, I wouldn't watch this game if it was going on at the Rash Stadium here in Owensboro, but it's going to be a stomp out again as Indianapolis takes down Jacksonville. Soon to be London.
I think Blaine Gabbert's back this week because of my guy.
Somebody alert Pete Briscoe.
Chad Henne looks as terrible as anybody else, and you know what? It's Jacksonville at this point. I mean,
are you still a Cecil Shorts guy at this point? Is the real question.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Cecil Shorts' fault that his quarterbacks are incompetent. It's time to get Mark Brunell on the phone, I think. Let's see what the guy.
They got Denard Robinson on the roster.
When did Mark Brunell retire? Like, it wasn't but just 2 years ago. He's like 62.
He was a backup.
He's still younger than Whedon. So I mean, let's get him out there and see if he can sling it.
Yeah, right now, I mean, he's got like 4 years on Whedon.
Yeah,
less age. So I mean, bring him in. What can it hurt at this point? I mean, that's a better option than Blaine Gabbert. I honestly think the Blaine Gabbert start happened because Cleveland decided to trade Trent Richardson, so they would be bad. Jacksonville's like, you think you're getting the first pick? I will see your Trent Richardson trade and up you a Blaine Gabbert start.
That's right.
Take that.
That's right. Blaine Gabbert starts the rest of the season, injured or not.
That is it.
One arm tied behind his back.
Don't make me
Blaine
take
Gabbert
JD
will
out.
lead the Jacksonville Jaguars to a 0-52 defeat and Andrew Luck will roll on.
Usher in the Teddy Bridgewater era.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, on to
and it'll happen in London probably.
Bigger and better things, and home of your favorite coach in the NFL, Andy Reid, Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead. They'll take on the New York Giants, who have looked putrid so far this season.
Yeah, once again, another game where it's Fat Ass taking on a division rival, so I got to cheer for Fat Ass once again, and I'm picking Kansas City to take this one home.
The Giants are just awful.
38 to nothing
awful.
last week.
As a Viking fan, I'm down. The way we've been beat is pretty much kicked me in the balls 2 weeks in a row. Just stole my heart, but...
Would you rather be beat like that, 38-0?
I say that I would while I'm watching. Right when the game's over, I'm like, I'd rather be beat by 42-0 than lose like that. But then, as now I'm looking at it, I'm like,
that's a long Sunday.
No,
right there.
you're turning the game off Sunday. In the first quarter at this point. That's a no. I hope the Giants keep losing because I'll tell you what,
you're watching NASCAR about 2 p.m.
I'm already starting
golf or something.
Yeah. I'll never watch NASCAR, but I tell you right now, I'm starting to eyeball Tom Coughlin a little bit. If the Vikings keep sucking the way they are, and the Giants can keep sucking the way they are, maybe the Giants will start to think that maybe he can't motivate that team. Because I'd take Tom Coughlin as my head coach in a heartbeat just to watch his meltdowns on the sidelines every week. That'd be fantastic.
That had to be the most entertaining part of the game.
I didn't watch much of it.
I'd rather, how they had a Johnny Football cam on Johnny Football during Alabama? I would have loved to have a Tom Coughlin cam on Tom Coughlin that whole game.
That guy's entertainment value is a 10. You got, especially when they're getting smoked out, especially by a team like Carolina. He's just got smoke rolling out of his ears. His face is red as shit over there. It is.
It's even better when it's cold outside like that, like that Green Bay game, and he becomes a shade of red that's not even catchable in the normal life.
Poor Coughlin.
It's a 30 degrees below zero, bright red face, and you can see literally steam coming out of his ears.
I'm reaching out to you right now, Tom. So don't worry, you're not going to be unemployed long. If the Vikings keep sucking, you keep sucking. You always have a place in Minnesota. I'll welcome you with open arms. You have a couple Super Bowl rings, and I don't have any. So bring it on to Minnesota. But speaking of which, a perfect transition. The Vikings will be hosting Pittsburgh in London. If that makes any sense whatsoever. The last year, the Metrodome only gets 7 home games there instead of 8. Another thing just to piss me off a little bit more, but. Of course, you know who I'm picking in this game. We're going to roll with the Vikings. We're red hot right now. We can't be stopped. The offense, Ponder just looks fantastic. Adrian Peterson's well on his way to 2,500 yards.
That purple train, keep them moving.
Defense, just great. They're not missing Antoine Winfield at all.
And they're the home team here this week. Don't forget, big advantage.
They don't lose at home. They don't lose at home. And, especially when your home is Wembley Stadium, home of the greatest intercontinental title match ever, Bret the Hitman Hart versus Davey Boy Smith. We're going to transition right into the London. They got little kids all over England wearing Vikings gear. It's celebrate right now because we're coming. And Jared Allen, $17 million to get one quarterback hurry in 3 games. The guy's earning his money out there. It's good times in Minnesota right now. And Pittsburgh's way down. So the Vikings, I'd say somewhere in the ballpark of 40. I'll say 42-17 Vikings.
Whoa, going just to stomp them out.
Absolutely.
There. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
No, absolutely.
Sorry. Sorry and shit.
You know what? Somebody's got to win the game.
I'm trying to win this.
Somebody's got to win the game.
I picked against the Eagles last week. I'm ruthless.
Go ahead. Hey, the way we've looked, we couldn't beat Apollo High School at this point. But we'll go ahead and move on. I don't want to spend all day on the Vikings, but we'll go down to the Arizona Cardinals. Your Arizona Cardinals. They're going to be heading down to host those to face the Pirates and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to have to roll with Arizona this week for the first time.
I'm going with my Cardinals to make the Pirates walk the plank here. Get it done, Honey Badger.
I struggle getting that out. They're playing at Tampa Bay. The Cardinals are flying there, the Tampa Bay, Honey Badger and all, and they're going to get the win because Josh Freeman's incompetent. It's about time for Mike Glennon.
I'm ready for the Mike Glennon era to begin, and I'm not even a Tampa fan.
We're a displaced diehard. He's a displaced diehards guy.
We've been calling for him since week 2 of the preseason.
Yeah. When he comes in and starts sucking, you'll realize that
how well that Cecil Shorts pick worked out.
It's not nothing to do with Cecil Shorts. If you're listening right now, damn it, I'm not coming off the Cecil Shorts bandwagon. I'm not going to do it. Henny, Gabbert, it doesn't. You might as well put me out there and let me throw the ball to Cecil Shorts. The guy has no chance.
You heard it here first from Stephen A. Turner. Do not start Cecil Shorts until Mark Brunell is the Jaguars quarterback.
We have no. If you're listening to my picks and you're taking it to heart who I'm picking, you're obviously not paying attention because I have no idea what I'm talking about. But let's go ahead and go. Hey, we're only 2 hours away from this game. I still don't really want to watch it on TV. It's the Tennessee Titans. Sorry, Bill, hosting the New York Jets, and love you, Jets fans. You can
Kermit
suck my
is going to be pissed at you.
Yeah, screw it. I don't care. Jets fans can kiss my ass. I still don't like them. It is what it is at this point. Tennessee's actually somewhat impressive. They have proved me wrong, as many teams have across the league this year. And, look for Locker to show up and throw for about 400 because I said he was regressing. And, Chris Johnson, since I got him in a couple fantasy leagues, he's probably going to get benched. Yeah, that's right. For Sean Green.
Green to go off.
Right in our wheelhouse. Probably go about 250 in this game. So look for that to happen. I'm taking the Titans, though, for real.
I'm picking the Titans because they're at home. I think these teams are pretty two equal teams, and give me the Titans because they're at home.
Yeah, these picks are fun. Let's go to Denver, near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, this game's going to be fun.
The Eagles are flying into town.
Yeah, great.
The question in this game is how many touchdowns is Peyton Manning going to throw for? How many? What's the over-under?
The question on this game is how long before I'm watching NASCAR.
No, let's be real here. It could get into a shootout. I mean, right? I mean, come on.
Probably not.
No. Okay, I'm trying to give you something here. Come on. I'll take the Denver Broncos. Why not? Let's do it.
I know better than to buy in. I've seen whenever you buy into the Vikings how crushing it is, and I've learned from your mistakes.
Hey,
I'm picking Denver.
Hey, to be true, though, I didn't buy into the Vikings this week. I sat right there on the couch and told you they're going to lose. I'm prepared for it. If they win, it's good. They're not going to fool me once.
Didn't you pick them last week?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I did pick them. But that was before the game started. I was optimistic before the game started. Once I saw how it was starting to unfold, I was like, oh, Jesus.
We got to start making our picks in the third quarter of the game. We'll be way more accurate that way.
I'd still lose. I still would have rode with them. I'm not going to lie. All right, here we go. Let's go down to Oakland. The black hole. It is a black hole because there's not a whole lot of good football going on there. It's Oakland Raiders.
Good football right off the universe.
And even worse football is coming to town in Washington Redskins. Jesus Christ. They couldn't pay me money to watch this game. Especially after the Vikings get beat, I'm really not going to want to watch it. So the Raiders, Terrell Pryor, go ahead and give me them, I guess. Why not?
I guess I got to finally pick Catfish
Bob. No, you don't.
Get off the schneid
Throw some balls. Throw some balls and pick the Raiders.
Injured. I'm not banking on Lightning Arm. I'm not putting my pick on Lightning Arm.
You don't want to pick Catfish Boy.
I'm not picking Lightning Arm either.
Red Lobster and Catfish Boy goes hand in hand, man.
It's like an Aquaman reunion in this game.
They're right on the West Coast.
Can I pick Aquaman?
Come on, give me Oakland. Terrell Pryor. He's going to run for 350 yards in this game. Write it down. That means he's going to throw for 4 interceptions, and Oakland's going to lose.
I'm going for Washington to win and make it RG 1-3.
You kind of have to read between the lines on our picks. You really do. I mean, if I say Terrell Pryor's going to go off and he's going to bench him on your fantasy, do not start him.
Possibly even drop him.
Just get him out of your league altogether. But let's go to San Diego, where the Superchargers, who I was very down on, will be hosting my Dallas Cowboys and Tony Romo.
I'm picking the Chargers.
Oh, no. I am too, actually. But you know what? Dallas was listening.
Go to hell, Jerry Jones.
Bill Callahan.
Go to hell and you die.
Jerry Jones must have transferred a copy of the Displaced Diehards week number 9 podcast over to Callahan because he heard me bitching and complaining about how they wouldn't run the balls and they started feeding to Marco Murray. And what happened?
Yeah, how about you not give them
won the game?
How about you not give them ideals to play well anymore?
San Diego's been somewhat impressive. I'm going San Diego in this game. I don't know. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm taking San Diego in this game.
I'm going San Diego because they're playing the Cowboys.
How about Sunday Night Football? You think the count is worried about this one? It's Atlanta Falcons in the coffin.
And it's at nighttime, too, so that's going to play in. Even if it wasn't
you gotta look at that.
It wasn't in the coffin.
You've got to take that into effect.
Way more on their time restraints this week.
Tom Brady doesn't have a competent receiver one on the whole entire squad, and you're 3-0. So that tells you anything about Tom Brady. That should. I'm still rolling with Atlanta. They're bound to bounce back, surely.
Yeah, New England, like you said, the Vikings could have lost some games that they won or won some games that they lost, and New England just keeps winning games that they should have lost. They've got nobody to throw to.
It's just funny to watch. It's fun to watch New England because their receivers are so terrible.
New England win.
It's
fun to watch Tom Brady get pissed off.
Yeah, it's fun to watch the receivers try to make. Like Tom Brady will throw like a perfect strike right in the numbers, and the dude will jump for no reason and like bounce right off his hands. You're like, what are you doing?
It's like they're just trying to piss him off now to see his reaction. So they know they're going to come back and win in the fourth quarter. That's how they do. Like for the first 3 quarters, let's just piss Brady off.
See what we can do. See what we can get him to yell at us.
His life's too good. He has a moat and married to a supermodel. Let's F with him this week.
It's like he'll throw a perfect 50-yard spiral right to Tompkins, and he'll be. No, it's actually Dobson. Dobson's the one who does it the best, and he'll start dogging the route about 30 30 yards in. It's a 50-yard perfect strike, and just so he can dive for it and try to make Sports Center.
Try to make a one-handed Chris Carter catch.
It's so fun watching Brady get pissed off, though. But I mean, they're 3-0, so what is there to really be that pissed off about? But
I'm picking them to have their first loss this week, though. Atlanta's got to get it done at this point.
I'm taking Atlanta in this one.
It's almost a must-win for Atlanta.
And the Casual Fan Reporter is still up to go. It's our last game of the day here. We got New Orleans, home of Hurricane Katrina, right in the
New Orleans Hurricanes.
Right where, that's right, right there where they hosted Hurricane Katrina. They're hosting the Miami Dolphins.
Bring in a different team beside the Hurricanes this week, but I'm going with the Dolphins.
I'm gonna roll. Hey, I'm on board. We're an elite team. Rex Ryan defense. Let's roll it out, baby. I'm going New Orleans Saints. In this game, I mean,
I had to crush your soul a little bit.
How can you go wrong? I mean,
that's almost as bad as me picking RG3.
Speaking of which, if you are in any of my fantasy, actually, I've only have Drew Brees in one league. If you're in the Apollo Heights Fantasy League, Drew Brees is on the block. I'm willing to deal him if you got somebody.
Breaking news.
That can score any points at all. Drew Brees is the only person I got that scores points. So I'm trying to pull a Cleveland here, and I'm trying to get rid of him. So I can lose every game. That way I can get last place. And I can
you're starting Brian Hoyer next week?
I might. I told you that I will be that guy soon. Terrell Pryor is right in my wheelhouse at this point. So I steer clear from him if you're in any fantasy leagues.
Well, we heard our opinion on this game. Let's go ahead and kick it to the casual fan and see what his prediction is.
Well, hello again, and good evening, friends. The Casual Fan Reporter checking in once again here on the Displaced Diehards podcast, available through iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and, of course, DisplacedDiehards.com, the only place where you can get hard-hitting analysis from me, the Casual Fan Reporter. If you've noticed a bit more pep in my voice thus far on this report, then you are obviously well aware of the source of my joy. Yes, the patriotic soldiers of New England came through for me this past weekend, sending a very strong message to those swashbucklers from the South. We do not negotiate with terrorists. We don't take any crap off marauding high-sea vigilantes. Those brave men stood up for the rights of our fellow brothers and sisters, and to them I say, God bless America. Okay, enough patriotic garbage. This is not an election year. Let's talk NFL. And as we all know, NFL stands for Natural Fighting League. But I gotta tell you, my tough call matchup from the Week 4 schedule is anything but natural. This week, I'm highlighting the unusual battle that is to take place in the home of the Mardi Gras, New Orleans, Louisiana. Apparently, they have developed a group of fighters, and they call themselves the Saints. I don't know about you, but I've never known too many Saints to be confrontational. But that's not the weird part about this matchup. They are doing battle with a large group of porpoises that are migrating from South Beach in Miami over to the northwestern portion of the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, if you think about it, this matchup is cuckoo. Grown men claiming to be saints going out into the water of the Gulf picking fights with dolphins, it's just Looney Tunes, I tell you. There's not a damn thing saintly about trying to kick Flipper's ass all the while lying about your status within the Catholic Church. These holier-than-thou bastards are a disgrace to the cloth, and I'm telling you right now, God would not bestow forgiveness for their sins against one of his beasts. So with that, I'm taking the Dolphins to win this battle. I mean, they're saints, for God's sakes. At some point, I'm sure common sense will step in and they'll realize the errors of their way and just leave the Dolphins be. But if they insist on bloodshed, I gotta tell you, I like the advantage the Dolphins have. Quick movements in water, the ability to elude attackers by diving deep. I'm telling you right now, friends, the only thing that could help these saints take care of the Dolphins would be a natural disaster like a hurricane. And we all know how that worked last time. Anyway, this is the Casual Fan Reporter saying keep listening, keep watching, and above all else, buy a damn weather radio for Christ's sake. Later. You know, I'm still kind of sketchy on those Saints. I mean, if they're so saintly like they claim to be, how come they haven't signed Tim Tebow?
Got the Casual Fan checking in with his pick of the Dolphins to beat those dastardly Saints.
Yeah, that was an unusual pick. The way I deciphered it, it's kind of like maybe the Saints are going to just realize their errors of their ways, and they're just going to let the Dolphins win. So maybe that means in a casual fan term, that might mean they're going to turn the ball over a lot. Is what I'm thinking.
Got to read between the lines.
You really do.
With the casual
just like
fans
our picks, you got to read between the line with the casual fans picks.
You got a lot going on in this podcast, ladies.
You really
and gentlemen.
do. I mean, it's very informative. If you're a Displaced Diehard fan, pay attention because we're just giving you information. You just better be taking notes.
We're like
basically.
the Fight Club.
That's right. Just get your laptop out. Just take the notes down. You'll be ready for week 4. No problem.
Go ahead and get your notes ready for our fantasy starts and sits here.
Keep typing.
Go ahead and go with my first start of the week. I got Michael Vick because I believe we'll be down by 30 after the second quarter, and he's going to have to throw the rest of the game.
Hey, how about we're both going? Well, you're going for your team. I almost said we're both going against. I'm going against my team. Started Antonio Brown this week. I don't even know who's going to play corner for the Vikings at this point. We got Sherrill's healthy. We've got Robinson healthy, and Xavier Rhodes is healthy, and that's it. So we might be having Greg Jennings. He makes enough money. We might put him at cornerback just try to earn his paycheck because he's only getting like 1 catch a game.
I'm going to keep it moving with the wide receivers. My must start on the wide receiver list would be Wes Welker for the reasons I mentioned to start Vic, because I believe the Broncos are going to put up 30 in the first quarter against the Eagles, and I believe Welker will be a big part of that.
Yeah, Welker, I mean, he's a beast so far. You start any Denver wide receiver in most games, they're going to be good to go.
The Eagles struggle, like with Donnie Avery. They let Donnie Avery go crazy, and they struggle over the middle slot guys, and Welker is that. He's that prototype guy.
Yeah, I will start Nate Washington for the Tennessee Titans if he's a guy out there maybe on your waiver wire or maybe on your bench. I can tell you right now, we've kind of touched on it before, but Locker is that's his guy.
Nate Washington is his guy.
And they are playing the Jets, who are solid on defense, but I expect Nate Washington to still get his looks.
Yeah, whenever things going wrong in Tennessee, that's who Jake Locker looks for to bail him out. And I mean, that's especially in a PPR league. That's the guy you want starting in your lineup. He's like Jason Avant. So I mean, a little mini starter if you need somebody off the waiver wires. Jason Avant will be somebody that Michael Vick's looking for when we're trying to catch up from being down 60-3.
That's right.
Moving on with my third.
Go
pick.
ahead. You go ahead. Take it.
Sorry to cut you off there.
You just walked all over me.
Had to get this info out.
Dance on my grave. Go ahead.
Had to get this info
Throw
out.
some dirt on me.
Bernard Pierce, start him against Buffalo.
Hey, I started him this week, and I was complaining about him at halftime, and he ended up getting his in the second half, and was a pretty good start.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, I picked him up off waiver wires last week, right after the Ray Rice injury. He came in and gave me some decent production. I expect the same against Buffalo. Buffalo won't figure out how to use their running back right. I expect the Ravens to do just that against the Buffalo Bills.
I picked some crazy starts. I'm looking at my list, and I'm like, man, these guys, that's crazy. But this guy right here, I'm going to pick him up after I trade Drew Brees for some like third-string running back, Terrell Pryor. He's playing the Washington Redskins D, which has been atrocious this far. It's been downright offensive. So I'm gonna probably be starting Terrell Pryor as my starting quarterback. I don't even know who I'm playing in our league this week. But
Washington would allow 40 points to KWC starting quarterback. So whichever starting quarterback plays Washington, I think I'd start him.
I just picked that right off the scrap heap. Terrell Pryor, Washington defense. I like the matchup. So there you go.
Keeping it on the run there. You got to go by the seat of the pants here on the Displaced Diehards podcast.
You never know.
Moving on to the must-sets now. Once again, I'm all over this Phillies-Broncos game, but the leading rusher in the league, Shady McCoy, I don't think he's going to get a lot of touches because we're going to be down 78-3 by the second quarter.
That's a good sit. Yeah, I never thought of that. I'm going to set Colin
He's
Kaepernick.
Also banged up a little bit.
Hey, you picked the 49ers. I picked the Rams. I'm sitting Kaepernick. I'm going to make him prove, especially against a tough Rams defense on the road, with all the media starting to talk about how he's regressing and this and that. I want to see how he performs before I put him back in the starting lineup. I'm sitting Kaepernick.
Another guy that I had huge expectations for coming into the season, I'm sitting Dwayne Bowe. I thought he was going to flourish in Andy Reid's offense, but the problem is Alex Smith doesn't throw the ball farther than 5 yards at a time. So, and Debo is he's always downfield, and I mean he's been lost out there at Kansas City in this offense. So I'm setting him till they figure out a way to use him better.
Another big name wide receiver I'm sitting this week because he's on one of my teams. I know that he's struggling. He's somewhat injured, and he's playing against the best cornerbacks in the game. I'm sitting Andre Johnson this week. He just has been not Andre Johnson like, minus that first game. He hasn't been the guy that I drafted him to be for sure.
Yeah, I was thinking Hopkins was going to really help out Andre Johnson, but it looks like Hopkins might be the best wide receiver on the team.
Yeah, that's right.
Moving on now, my third and final sit of the week is going to be Reggie Bush coming off the injury, and he's playing that Chicago Bears defense.
We're right here in the wheelhouse together. I'm sitting the Bears D for the same reason. Now, not really because of Reggie Bush, but because The Lions, no matter what happens, Stafford throws for like 4,000 yards. I mean, he's going to put the ball up at least 60 times a game. That's just how they roll in Detroit.
Yeah,
so.
That's what I'm expecting. Is a lot of passes from Matthew Stafford, not a lot of looks for Reggie Bush. Other than drop offs.
I'm not going to lie, I struggled with my third sit this week. It took me a long time to pick that out.
He just used his hatred for the Bears.
So
to
take that with a grain
his third pick there.
Take that with a grain of salt.
Take that, jaded Jay Cutler.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're listening,
smoke on that.
If you're listening to Jay Cutler, you're definitely going to want to sit him because all their success comes from Cutler. But the Bears D, they could easily, like I said, Stafford puts it up so much that's just right for the taking for turnovers and sacks. So the Bears could still put up points, but I look for Stafford to get his on the yardage front.
That's a solid show right there for the Displaced Diehards podcast. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Remind you can download the podcast at displaceddiehards.com. Follow us on Twitter at Diehards Podcast. You can like our Facebook page, facebook.com/displaceddiehards. Watch us on YouTube, youtube.com/displaceddiehards. You can also listen to the podcast on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. And you can watch the show every Saturday, 10 p.m., Channel 72 on Time Warner Cable in Owensboro.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Displaced Diehards.
Displaced Diehards.
I am a Displaced Diehard.
I am a Displaced Diehard.
We are Displaced Diehards.